Hello, my name is Angela Rolfe, and during my career as an architect in the Office of Public Works, I was the project architect for the restoration and extension to the Clocktower Building, Dublin Castle, for the Chester Beatty Library between 1992 and 2000, and I continued to provide advice until I retired in 2017. In 1992, the trustees of the Chester Beatty Library decided to explore the possibilities for relocation from Shrewsbury Road, as its facilities there were extremely limited. To inform this process, I carried out preliminary feasibility studies for sites at UCD in Belfield, in Temple Bar, and the former Clocktower Building in Dublin Castle. They decided on Dublin Castle primarily because security for the collection was their main priority, and Dublin Castle offered a 24-hour full year security enclosure. The restoration, construction and fit-out works were carried out in two phases. Construction of phase 1 started in 1994 with the restoration and extension to the Clocktower Building. This first contract was completed in November 1995. Construction of phase 2, the fit-out and installation of exhibition spaces in the new extension and the restored Clocktower Building for the Chester Beatty Library, commenced in January 1999 and was completed in November 1999, allowing the Chester Beatty Library to move in and open to the public in February 2000. Historical context. Dublin Castle lies on the high ground between the Liffey and Poddle rivers. During the Viking era, it was part of the Long Fort that stretched down to the Liffey at Wood Quay. The site of the Chester Beatty Library is on the south side of the Poddle, which acted as a defensive moat beside the Black Pool. This Black Pool, Dove Linn, this is the Dove Linn that gave Dublin its name, and it remained as unused marshy area, but has given us the castle garden. John Speed's map on the right of 1610 shows the medieval castle and the city walls, with the site where the Chester Beatty now is marked in red. I made this drawing showing the evolution of Dublin Castle in 1983 during my initial researches for master plans for Dublin Castle. The approximate location of the Chester Beatty is superimposed in red on each of the diagrams that you can see there. The Clocktower Building appeared on Rogue's Map of Dublin, published in 1756. And nearly the same U-shaped plan exists today. There is an almost matching building on the other side of the garden, which is currently occupied by the Gardaí. However, the 1849 Ordnance Survey map would suggest that the present structure is a remodeling of an earlier building. The north facade and the brick second story were added early in the 19th century. Although there are no records to identify the architect, the Irish Architectural Archive is almost certain that the building was designed by Ireland's most important early 19th century architect, Francis Johnson. Johnson was the chief architect in the Board of Works from 1805 until his death in 1829. His office was in the Gate Lodge opposite the Chapel Royal, which is still the district office for OPW staff. He designed the Chapel Royal and the Quartermaster General's office, as well as adding the second story to the Great Courtyard in Dublin Castle. The Clocktower Building was used in the 19th century as the Ordnance Office for Royal Engineers. It's U-shaped building, 2 floors above ground level, with an entrance facing on the north side and a single corridor on the west of each wing. The Revenue Commissioners used this as offices for many years in the early years of the state. It had been unused and dilapidated for more than 15 years before the restoration works in Dublin Castle commenced. A series of record photos were taken in 1994, which show the extent of dilapidation, particularly in the interior, although the exterior had been maintained to keep up appearances. It's the garden-facing wing. And this is on the west side, showing the two wings and looking into the yard. And the stores are at the rear of the yard on the left, looking out towards Ship Street. And on the right, the windows facing the main staircase. Here are some examples of the interior. This is the front hall of the former Clocktower building, the state it was in 1994, showing that the staircase had been closed off because it was unsafe. A pair of ground floor rooms, you can see the floor has been taken out, fireplaces have been removed. And this is a first floor room, one of the few rooms that had original molded cornice. And this, the photo on the left shows a landing to the staircase, showing that in fact, although the outer part of the roof was looking intact, the inner facing areas of the roof had huge holes in, and the damage, water damage, was quite extensive. And on the right, you can see the cupboard for the pendulum for the clock. So this is on the second floor, and you can see the pendulum in front of the pendulum box there. Phase one works consisted of the restoration of the Clocktower building, a new extension, accommodating exhibition spaces, archival storage, the AV room, plant and services, and the glazed concourse that links the two parts of the building. The Clocktower building was restored following recommendations set out by the Architectural Archive, and the four key points that they made were that the wooden Clocktower building was to be removed and fully restored and re-erected, and you can see in the image there that it is ready to be put back. The early 19th century clock mechanism has been restored and fitted with an electronic winding device. The chimneys have been rebuilt to their original height. They had been lowered at some stage. And the simple molded cornices have been reinstated, and the fine main staircase, which was badly affected by dry rot, has been restored. The new extension to the Clocktower building was designed to house a collection of rare books and manuscripts and artifacts from the Chester Beatty collection. In the tradition of the 19th century museum library, the extension forms the repository of this unique collection. The extension was designed to express the value of the collection and, like a jewelry box, protect it from daylight, changes in environmental conditions, and the threats of various infestations and decay, and that the quality of materials and construction must reflect these values and provide a secure environment. But I felt that it was not only, that I should not only provide a mausoleum for such a unique collection. That was not acceptable, especially when public funds were involved. It must be accessible to the public in real and apparent terms. And the extension and the atrium link to the Clocktower building is designed to resolve this apparent paradox by creating an easily accessible public space. And maybe the plans show diagrammatically how I've done this. On the right, you have the U-shaped existing historic building, entrance in the middle into the covered concourse, and on the left, the plant, the archive, the lecture theatres, the heavily serviced areas. And on the first floor, there again, the exhibition area, filling the new extension with plant areas behind, linked by bridges to the existing building, the temporary exhibition area being the only fully public area on the first floor, and then reading rooms for scholars. And on the second floor, exhibition again, linked by bridges, and the upper floors of the existing historic building are mainly private staff areas. These are some images of the completed phase one that was completed in November 1995. I'll just flick through these. There's the restored staircase as it was in 1995. Some of the restored rooms. And the glazed concourse and bridges linking the former Clocktower building with the new extension. Although phase one was completed in 18 months, there was a delay of 3 years before phase two started. The building was used as a press centre during the first visit by President Bill Clinton to Ireland in December 1995, and again during the 1996 Irish presidency of the EU. It accommodated various functions during 1997 and 1998, including the early stages of the Flood Tribunal. Phase two, the fit out and exhibition design of the former Clocktower building for the Chester Beatty Library, was informed by an extensive risk assessment carried out by the Royal Library of Scotland, and was to meet best international security standards to allow the reciprocal display of borrowed exhibitions. The works comprised the fit out of the 3 exhibition areas, the Sacred Gallery, the Secular Gallery, and the Temporary Gallery, and installation of bespoke exhibition display cases, lighting, audiovisual systems, and graphics. The completion of services, including air conditioning systems with 100% backup, fire alarm systems, security systems, environmental monitoring systems, and the fire suppression system, which was the first in Ireland to have PVC pipework and which required the provision of a very large water storage tank located under the Ship Street yard to ensure sufficient water pressure. The removal, restoration, and installation of elements of the original Chester Beatty Garden Library and Chinese ceiling in Shrewsbury Road, the fit out of the bookshop, conservation workshop, photographic studio, kitchen, servery, and reception desk, and finally, the roof garden. These photos were taken shortly after the Chester Beatty Library opened in February 2000. The exhibition designers, event communications were engaged to handle the design of the exhibition, the graphic design, and the production of AV. They worked closely with the curators to integrate the separate strands of Chester Beatty's collection. These contain a high proportion of material representing the great spiritual traditions of Christianity, Islam, and the Orient. The sacred artifacts are displayed in the second floor gallery, the space closest to heaven, while the more secular artifacts are presented on the floor below. And these images show the sacred gallery on the left and the secular gallery on the right, as it was shortly after the Chester Beatty Library opened in Dublin Castle. The front doors to the Chester Beatty Library are located at the junction between the former Clocktower building and the new extension, and open into the 3-story glazed atrium space, designed to give easy access for all. The atrium contains a staircase and bridges linking the historic building with the extension. And you'll note that the draft lobby you entered straight into the atrium at this stage. The draft lobby was added later. The Chinese ceiling that Chester Beatty had originally brought to Dublin from his house, Bartra House in London, was restored and installed. The bookshelves and fireplaces from the Shrewsbury Road Garden Library were also installed in the new Garden Library on the first floor of the former Clocktower Building. And finally, 2 years later, when additional funds were provided, the roof garden. I felt strongly that the two black box exhibition spaces on the first and second floors needed to be counterbalanced by a quiet, contemplative outdoor room that could be enjoyed as part of the experience of visiting the exhibitions. I also saw a unique opportunity to create a contemporary public roof garden in the city, and I hoped it would complement and enhance the enjoyment of visitors to the Chester Beatty. There was a % for art budget for each phase of the construction. The existing 19th century weather vane had been restored, but the moving arrow section had been missing and there was no record of what it looked like. The brief for the commission competition required that the proposal for the moving section of the weather vane must respect the historical context of the existing building, but also refer to the building's new use as the Chester Beatty Library. Rachel Joynt designed a peacock. She felt that this exotic bird from the Far East would be appropriate as it refers to the Chester Beatty's collection, the formal garden, and the traditional weather vane cock. The peacock, which was fabricated by Harry Page Structural Welders, is 1,500 millimeters long, that's about 5 foot. It is made with a forged iron framework with patinated copper sheets and discs of blue glass in the tail. Another % for art commission was held seeking proposals for the interior of the pool set in the floor of the atrium. The selected proposal was coincidentally by Rachel Joynt. She refers to her own design, the peacock weather vane, and the peacock's feather is used as the motif. The rich colors are achieved by using glass and Venetian enamels in the mosaic, and the mosaic was fabricated by Sergio Benetti in his workshop in Mozart in Roscommon. And thank you. I hope you've enjoyed your quick journey through the development of the Chester Beatty Library, now known as the Chester Beatty, in Dublin Castle, more than 20 years ago. Thank you very much.